everyone. I'm Patrick Stafford Smith with the North Vancouver Chamber, and I'm happy to discuss the topic of understanding neurodiversity in the workplace today. And I'd like to welcome Rachel Forbes, who's the Executive Director of LDS, Learn, Develop, and Succeed, Chamber member. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Happy to be here today.
Great. Well, why don't we dive into it? Maybe you could explain a little bit about LDS, and then why don't we get into the what do you think the top three reasons a business owner or somebody in business would be interested in neurodiversity in the workplace?
Great. LDS Learn, Develop, Succeed is a nonprofit based in the Lower Mainland, including in the North Shore in Lynn Valley. We offer expert educational and related supports throughout British Columbia for children, youth, and adults who have any type of neurodivergence, diagnosed or undiagnosed. So that looks like support in schools, in workplaces, in higher education, and in other types of self-advocacy and support. And I'd say, we hear a lot about neurodiversity lately. There's many reasons why businesses and employers and recruiters should care about neurodiversity in the workplace. And top three right now would be around missing out on opportunities in innovative and creative thinking that neurodiverse individuals can bring to your workplace. Productivity of small shifts and accommodations and recognition can really bring out people's productivity and excitement and commitment to what they're doing at work and their commitment to your company. And retention, for those same reasons, to really bring people into your culture and have them feel seen and heard for who they are and valued for the strengths that they bring to the position, can greatly increase your workplace culture and retention capabilities.
Right, and I think that's that's why we have been in touch with you. I think a big challenge for employers on the North Shore is finding people, retaining them, and there are all sorts of different reasons why there may be challenges. And so we're trying to help people understand options they might have. So why don't we're throwing around the term neurodiversity, but what do we mean when we talk about neurodiversity? What actually are you alluding to?
So neurodiversity to us means the full spectrum of all the ways that brains work. So a neurotypical brain are the kind of majority-based brains that we have typical neural processes. Neurodivergencies or a neurodivergent brain is one that is neuroatypical. So that looks like different types of processing of information and different ways that we might communicate. Things that we might know this as is dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, autistic people, other types of executive function challenges, and many other types of mental health things and other neurodivergencies can follow under that umbrella, depending upon how you're casting it.
Okay. And so nobody has a label on their forehead that says I'm neurodiverse. So how does neurodiversity show up if you're an employer and maybe you've got an employee? What are the types of things that might make them think that hey, here's a talented person, but I'm not sure I'm fully understanding how to work with them
Yeah,
or
I mean,
get the best out of them?
sure. And I think this is a tricky subject because we can't straight up ask people if they have a diagnosed or undiagnosed neurodivergence. And it can show up in a lot of different ways. So ADHD, for example, is a thing a lot of people are learning more about right now, but it can come out in a lot of different ways, whether that's a hyper focus on different tasks or an inability to focus on specific tasks and get distracted. So these things can play out in different ways, but I think if you've got people on your team who seem to have the aptitude and the capability to be doing the work, but might appear to, need extra time or be struggling with remembering information or demonstrating that they really need to write things down or record them in certain ways in order to remember them, or kind of just are in behaviors and patterns that you start to notice that might be atypical to an employee, or they might be struggling in a little bit of a way. That's an opportunity to not, ask a direct question, but ask like, "Hi, how are you doing at work? Is there anything else that we can do to make you feel more supported? Are there any, accommodations that you want to ask for?" And then give some examples of what accommodations look like, because some people don't know what they all are, or might be shy to ask. And you don't have to disclose yourself as being neurodivergent. You don't have to have a diagnosis of any of these things to ask for, a different keyboard, or could I please have a speech to text software? It would really help me be a more productive member of this team. I use this thing to organize my tasks personally outside of work. Could I please get access to that kind of task manager here at work? Because I know that that would really make me feel more confident to be able to manage my priorities and my timelines. So those types of things you can, help your employees and your team members navigate.
Yeah, okay. And I guess that's really no different to the accommodations we make for physical differences that we've got, whether our chairs go up and down or all those types of things. We're recognizing that. Maybe they're more obvious, but yeah. So tell me what your average employer out there has sort of three stages of there's recruiting and hiring people. There's you know managing the people, the culture in your workplace, and then there's also you mentioned um, making them feel comfortable. What are some of the things that you put out there in terms of let's start with recruiting and hiring, and then maybe the building of a culture.
Yeah, so I mean, assuming that you're recognizing that neurodiverse individuals have a lot of strengths that would be of benefit to your organization, I think making that known and having things on your website or built into your culture or your publicly available policies about how you welcome people of different backgrounds, of different diversity, whether that's physical or country of origin, or other types of invisible, sometimes called disabilities, where we're getting into talking about mental health challenges or neurodivergence, where you don't have it on our forehead, like you're mentioning. So being upfront about that so that when you are recruiting people, they can see themselves in a safe place where they know that if they do ask for something or if they need support with something, that there is that culture already at a workplace and they're not going to feel unsafe or uncomfortable or threatened because it can be a really vulnerable thing to have to ask for or, get accommodations for if needed. Um, so we find that we put things like right in our postings and our interview process. We have things on our website about, clearly that we're welcoming of neurodivergent individuals because that's who we typically work with. But we also put in right in the first interview questions about, is there anything else you want to tell us? Would you need any accommodations? Just so they know right up front before we're even checking references and things that that's something that we're open to talking about.
Okay.
Then I guess, retention is building that culture into your whole workforce. And part of our learnings on that is that you've got to really have an understanding that everybody does need different things to thrive and for their strengths to be recognized in a workplace. And as you referenced some of those physical things, like we might all have different desk chairs, or some of us might have different schedules, or some of us might have a different, equipment that we need if we're working in a warehouse and those types of things. It's the same thing. Some of these things just might not be visible. But I do know, even just from our direct experience at LDS and working with over half my team does identify as neurodivergent, and the change that you can see and how comfortable people are and how they feel safe really shifts the culture and really has people buy into being committed to your organization. And if we're getting into the business side of it, that means being more productive and being more valuable and retaining that relationship for a longer time. So that person's with you for a longer period of their career and they're a great advocate of your business and your organization.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We've had conversations like this on all sorts of issues, everything from childcare to immigrant inclusion to language issues, and the theme is often being open to discussion, being open to having a flexible workplace that
Mhm.
accommodates everyone's needs is really important, and it can really result in some employees who are loyal and committed to the work you're doing because they see that you're being flexible. And there's no equivalence in those issues; they're all different. But I certainly get the sense that being reasonable and being accommodating and maybe I can ask the question, when you're making accommodations, the issue of privacy comes up
Mhm.
in that, like I said, people don't have labels on their forehead, and maybe they don't want labels about the
Mhm.
accommodations being made for them or being given a label. How would you suggest building a culture that allows you to make accommodations without impinging on people's privacy.
Yeah, I think it's about there's a structure and a process and setting expectations there, both from the legal responsibilities that we have as business owners and employers, whether that's the human rights side of it or the privacy side of it. But also being really clear to people who are coming into your team about how do we manage this? This information is only going this far. It's on a need to know basis. Things are about what you tell us. We're not going to and there are things that employers can ask for additional information or support on if they need it to justify things. But make sure that it's really clear what's possible from the beginning and what might be an undue hardship, which is the legal test for an employer, right? I think some employers and businesses get a bit scared, which is reasonable, about like, well, if I kind of open this potential floodgates of accommodation, everybody's going to ask for X, Y, Z, or everybody's going to want to work from home when I really want to have more of an in-person culture or those types of things. Just be clear about expectations and needs and how you're balancing the needs of the business and your team members up front. And I think that kind of transparency and context setting really helps set everybody up for success, right? They already know what the goalposts are that we're working within.
Okay. And the risk of a conversation like this, I don't want to be building up barriers for people to think, oh my God, to make progress in our business, we're going to have to do all of these things. I get the sense from you that there's some simple things that we can do. But at the risk of this conversation going on forever, I think there's so much more to learn. If people are interested in digging a little deeper, or they'd like to learn more about how they can set up a culture or improve their hiring process or deal with a situation they're working with right now. What would you suggest? And obviously, we'll include all sorts of links in our post that we've got here. But any suggestions for somebody who's looking to act right now and deal with something right now?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is to just reflect on what you're doing and how you're doing it right now. And to your point, Patrick, about other conversations around equity, diversity, and inclusion, it's reflecting on how you set your business up and how you show up in the community. So that can be a self-reflection thing. We are also happy to help with workshops that are catered more to different industries and types of businesses or service providers. We have a number of resources and even recorded workshops and webinars on our website, and we're always open to discussions about how we can support both businesses and employers and employees who are struggling with these challenges.
Well, that's fantastic. We're very proud to have you in our community, Rachel, and LDS is doing such great work. And I'm glad I know you do much more than just support employers, but that's certainly something I think that we're happy to share what you're doing with the people that we reach out to. So, Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to further discussions with you and this issue in our community.
Thank you, and thank you for being such a great advocate for local business.